All right, so we're going to move on now to solving systems using non-graphing methods. The graphing is really handy but only when you really have straightforward equations like what I had before. When you're using like more real life data, right, things aren't going to lie on nice little even number points, right? You're not going to lie on 1,3. When you're dealing with money and things like that, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to make a profit when I sell 300.74 products at, at this price point or something, for 442.50. I don't know. I'm just making things up, right? So there are ways that you can solve systems of equations without graphing, because it can be hard. You can't look at a graph and just see the decimal points, things like that, right? So there's two ways to do it. The first way we're going to go over is called substitution. Okay. So again, you have to remember when we're solving a system, right, the answer is a point, right? So that means we're going to need to figure out an x value and a y value. We're trying to find out the point, right? The point where the two equations intersect. And if you think about that too, like looking back at before, the point where the two equations intersect, that means that this point lies on both lines, right? Where the lines intersect, right here, 0,4 lies on both this line and on this line. So it's a point that both of the lines have in common. They share that point together, right? So, but you just have to remember that, because we're going to try and solve for x and for y. So let's go over the substitution method. So let's say we have these two equations. Right? And we're going to use substitution. So if you have to think, it's the point where these two lines intersect. It's the point that they both have in common. Basically, this is the one point where these two equations are equal to each other. So if they're equal to each other, then that means I can just take this, right? I'm saying y equals 4x minus 1. So I actually know what y is in terms of x, right? Because I know that, I can take that and I can plug it into y in the other equation. Right? So I'm taking this first one, y equals whatever it equals to, and I'm plugging it into y in the other equation. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that right here. So 3x plus 2 times, but instead of using y, I'm going to use 4x minus 1 equals 9. But see, what this does is this got rid of the variable y, and now I just have the variable x. And remember, when we just have one variable, we can actually solve it, right? We can figure out what x equals. So I'm going to, do PEMDAS. These are like terms, right? So 11x equals 11. So I just solved for x. But remember, our answer is x comma y. So I just have one part of it. Now I need to figure out what's the y. Okay, but it's really easy now. I already know what x is. So again, I can use substitution, and I can plug 1 into x. And I can plug it into any of the two equations and solve for y. We'll do both for this first example, just so I can show you it doesn't matter which one you pick, you're going to get the same answer. All right, so let's do the first one. The y equals 4x minus 1. So this time I know that x is 1. I solved for it already. Right, so I got y equals 3. Okay, let's plug it into this second equation just to see what happens. So you can see I got y equals 3 no matter which equation I chose to plug it into. But now I also have my answer. X is 1, y is 3. That's my point. This is the point where these two lines intersect. Okay, so if you're going to graph it, this is what you should get. If you didn't want to graph it, or it just asked for you to solve it not by graphing, you'll still get the same answer. Okay? And you don't have to plug it into both. You can just pick which one you want to plug it into. Okay, so that's solving by substitution. Let's just do a few examples for that. So if you want to use the substitution method, you need to have one of your equations needs to be solved for one of your variables, right? So you either have to have y equals, whole expression, or you could even have x equal a whole expression, right? So right now I can't substitute anything, right? So because I'm saying that x minus 2y equals 6. I don't have x minus 2y in the other equation, or 5x plus 3y, right? I can't substitute anything there, but I can rewrite my equation. So I'm gonna rewrite the second one. I'm gonna solve it for x. But now, you see, since I solved it for x equals 2y plus 6, now I know what x is, so I can take this and I can plug it in. This time I'm plugging into x, right? Because I just solved for x. So I'm going to substitute that in to x. So let's rewriting it over here. So in this example, I am solving for y first, right? So I'm going to distribute. These are like terms, so I'm going to combine them, and I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. So I got my y, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Y equals -1. So now I know what y is, but remember my answer is a point, so I need to figure out what x is. So I can take my y value of -1 and I can plug it into any of the two equations. I always like to pick the equation with the smallest numbers, because then that means you're going to be multiplying smaller numbers and everything. It's just easier. But you can plug it into any one. Right, so I'm going to pick the x minus 2y equals 6. Okay, so y is -1. So I know what y is now. -2 times -1 would give me +2. So x equals 4. So my answer then is the point 4, -1. This is the point that both of the lines have. This is the point that the two lines cross each other. Okay, let's just do one more for good measure, and then we'll move on. I can't read my writing. I really hope that's right. Right, right, so I know what y equals, so I can just plug that straight into the y here. Okay, and then I'm going to rewrite it over here. Okay, so I figure out what x is 1. Now I just need to figure out what y is, so I'm going to just plug it into the first equation, plugging the 1 into x, and solving for y. There, oh, sorry, I always keep, it's like a habit for me to box it, but really, I should box the actual answer, 1, 6. There you go. So my answer is the point, x, y. I solved for x, solved for y, and then it makes a point. Okay, so that is solving by substitution. Yeah, you're just going to try and solve for like y or x in one of your equations, and then you substitute it into the other equation, right? Because then that leaves you with one variable, and when you have one variable, you can actually solve for the number. Okay, and yeah, so that's that for that. Now I will move on to solve one more way to solve systems of equations.